Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us on season 2 of the Higher Ground podcast. We're happy you're here with us today. We've got some great guests lined up this season, different leaders from organizations that I've worked in or around, folks that I've worked with in the past, and my current peers that I'm working with today. We've got mentees that are going to be joining us that are asking advice from all different levels of their career journey, whether it's looking for a job or a promotion. We're here to help. Sticky situations are our specialty. Asking questions about the interview process and getting promoted and the like are very important to us in this podcast. I just want to reiterate that the views expressed are my own, as well as the guests represent their personal opinions and do not represent the views of the companies that they're working for, the ones we might reference as part of our conversation. Thanks so much for joining, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome to season 2 of the Higher Ground podcast. With me today, I have a very wonderful guest, Gabor Meyer, who is a colleague of mine at the company that we generally try not to name, but you might guess from his background. We've worked together on a number of projects and are colleagues. I'm a new colleague to the space of product management. I've spent most of my career doing technical program management. I built products and the like, but I'm actually now finally getting into the more formal space. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different topics. But before I continue to ramble on, Gabor, maybe you can introduce yourself and we could start off this fun session we're going to have today.
All right. Thanks, Tom, for inviting me. My name is Gabor. I'm a product manager at the company we don't want to name. And yeah, I've been in product management for quite a few years now. I actually started my career as a software developer and then transitioned into product management simply by my manager and myself sort of jointly at the same time realizing that whenever a customer came into our office, they always ended up sitting down on the couch and sipping coffee and chatting to me about how could the product that we developed help them more in their everyday work and life. And that's when I started to work as a product manager, grew my scope with larger and larger companies, and then ended up with one of the biggest companies in the world.
We could say it's Google. And nobody would have guessed. Yeah, no, and it's no. Thank you for that. Thank you for that background. And my apologies. I've been pronouncing your name correct. Gabor.
Yeah, that's all right. I've heard so many versions of it. In fact, both my brother and sister have very international names, whereas myself, the only one from the family who lives abroad, I have the least international name of the
That's
three of us.
fantastic. That is fantastic. Yeah, no, the last name like Castriota or Castriota, depending on who you talk to and what part of my family, the pronunciation can be variable. So it's I appreciate you. I will do my best to remember. I've got it in my brain one way, but I'm going to make sure I get it right. So thank you, Gabor. So you talked a little bit about your journey. I'd love to, if you could just give me a bit of your background, right? So, you got to be in product management after a number of years of doing different things. It sounded like the software engineer part, the transition from software engineer became a result of just, was it something in your personality? Is something you're inherently product centric, you're customer centric? Tell me about like you describe sort of the moment where you decided this might be a good plan. If you could just give me a little bit of a read up into how did you get there?
Right. Is there something in my personality? I think there are a couple of things. I felt as a software developer that I enjoyed the notion of creating something. There is nothing, I type some code, and there is something working, moving, doing
Amazing.
something.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So the feeling of creation is something that I admire, and it is still with me today. I love creating stuff. But at the same time, when I was spending most of my workday just coding, that felt like I was bored only talking to the code base instead
Mm.
of talking to people. So I wanted to have more of that, talking more to the people. And probably lastly, I usually like helping people and I can empathize with others. And this combination of wanting to talking to people, loving the creation and being technical enough, and having some empathy for others was sort of leading me up to this moment that I described earlier.
That's interesting. I love I've always looked at sort of building software as a incredibly creative endeavor, right? That's like something that's just, like you said, you start with nothing, idea, hands on keyboard. Now it's like speaking prompts, etc. Like, but the idea of creating something has always been fascinating to me. But I like your positioning on empathy. Can you talk a little bit more about like the role of empathy in the product manager's bag of tricks or characters or characteristic?
Yeah, absolutely. Bad or average product managers assume that everybody thinks like themselves.
Mm.
It's also called the self-confirmation bias or self-bias for
Mm.
short. So if you are not really experienced or you are um, ignorant, you might assume that, okay, I use an iPhone or I use an Android, therefore everybody around me uses an iPhone or everybody around me uses an Android, right?
Mm.
Or I would say if six of my friends have iPhones and four of my friends have Android, then the market share of iPhone and Android must be 6-4. When in reality, it may or may not be, because you are who you are and you are surrounded by people who are similar to you to some extent,
Hmm.
but it doesn't mean that the whole humanity and the whole society is exactly like that. And being able to empathize with others and think through what other people are going through, what is the experience of other people in life, can make you a more empathetic or more successful product manager, because you are not developing products for yourself, especially when you work for such a large company as one of the big tech companies. You have billions and billions of users, and those billions of users come from all different backgrounds, and you have to cater for all of them.
That's great. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I like the way you progress from the microcosm to the macro, right? Where you've got such a large population at wild. Interesting. No, thank you. There's been questions that I've seen before that describe sort of product managers and program managers sort of in a very similar vein. Like we both build stuff for users. Like in your view, what's the difference between a program manager and a product manager?
Ooh, okay. I hope I don't offend anyone, especially not on this call, by saying that these are two completely different jobs. They are they are
I
not
don't
the
think
same
I don't
at
think
all.
that's offensive. Yeah, there are people who might be, but
All right.
like I think you're right. But please, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Program managers primarily focus on how much time do we have, what resources do we have, aka money, engineering hours we can invest, headcounts, and what is the scope, what is the list of things that we want to deliver by the end of that time block, right? So time, resources, scope. Sometimes people mention also quality as the fourth dimension. That's the primary set of problems that a program manager or project manager focuses on. Whereas a product manager primarily focuses on what should we build next that brings the most value to the company while delighting users, right? So how do we make the company rich? By delighting users and helping them achieve their goals. What do we build next to achieve this?
And then size and scope of the next might be very different, right? Then I've only got a quarter. Hmm.
I love to partner up with good program managers who can work with the engineers and figure
Mm.
that part out.
Yeah, to me, that's the winning combo. I've been lucky enough. The last product I'm working on has been a really strong combination of a very engaged engineering team, a really, really strong program manager who continually reminds me. It's kind of this interesting dance we keep doing. Like, I really want to see this particular feature in the next release. And he's like, too much, too much. I'm like, well, but, and we have that dance, right? And we do that back and forth. So, yeah, no, I agree with your thesis. They're incredibly different perspectives in terms of how you look at the day, the work, the week, the month, the year, quarter, etc. Yeah, no, that's great.
Work together in harmony, that's when beautiful things happen.
It's when beautiful things happen. I love it. I love it. So, what do you think the most? And you mentioned empathy, but what are some other really important characteristics you find in like a product manager? I'm going to sort of ease us into the interviewing sort of space slowly because I do want to. I do consider our audience are people who are either considering changing jobs or finding a job, and from someone who's been doing this for a while, like it's part of it is what do you look for, but also what do you think is having seen average to less so average and excellent, what are the characteristics you think are key?
Right. So there are multiple ways of putting this. One is splitting this by maturity in your career. So if we are going by the maturity split, someone early career can expect that they will get a very well-defined problem and a very well-defined solution, and all they need to do is to work really well with the engineering team to make it happen, to deliver it, to execute.
Okay.
Someone a little bit more senior, a couple of years into their career, they will get a very well-defined problem, but they need to figure out together with the engineering team what's the right way of solving it, and then build that solution. Someone even more mature in their career will get a problem space and they will be asked, hey, can you figure out what problem to solve here, and then just solve it. So they get an undefined problem. They need to find in a problem space what's the right problem to go after, then find the right solution and build a solution. And from here, as you grow, you are just growing your problem space up to a point when you need to involve others who feed into your work and help you solve bigger and bigger and bigger problems. And this is basically how I would define, for example, going from associate product manager to senior product manager to group product manager and then to director and upwards, right? So this is one way of splitting product managers. When I think critically about what does a good product manager versus a not so good product manager do, good product managers have good empathy. They also ground themselves into reality and data as much as possible. They always try to focus on making their users successful. That's where everything starts. If you don't make your users successful, your product by definition cannot be successful. Sure. And also, as you are more mature in your career, so I would say 5-8 years and above that into your career, I find that product managers who are exceptionally interested in the problem space that they are working in, who really have fallen in love with the problem that they are trying to solve for their users, are the ones who succeed the most, because day and night, their brain, even in their free time, will revolve around that problem space. For example, if somebody is a hobby runner who runs marathons and they work for Strava, that's like a match made in heaven. Because every time even when they just go for a run and they use the product, they will be like, oh my God, this could be better, that could be better, right?
Mm,
Um, and I've seen it even within Google that someone who was really passionate about a problem space, in their free time, they were just, looking around on the server, looking at other people's strategies within the company, checking out what other similar teams are doing within the problem space in some completely remote areas
interesting.
of the
Interesting.
company,
Yeah.
because they are just so passionate about it. And usually these are the product managers who really perform really high in any organization. So falling in love with the problem always helps.
Interesting. I love that idea. Like it's not like, you're always thinking about like, and using the product, I think is just so key, right? You can't just be describing something that someone else is going to be using. I think that's that, because then you're, like you said, you're going to get that firsthand experience. You get that opportunity for your own, like, oh, this is a wonderful or terrible or somewhere in the middle, right? How could we continually make this better? Um, there was a talk given by a senior product manager who he's pretty high up in the organization, and he had made a comment about how he keeps his chat open with his other product managers that immediately flags them when something goes wrong. Like it's literally, and he used some expletives, which I won't repeat, but we're comfortable with it. But he was like, "This is complete crap. We won't. I can't tolerate this. This is why would we allow such a blah blah." And he would just go off. And it's funny. This is kind of how I know, like, this is at least at this point in my life and my career. Ask anyone who knows me long enough, particularly my kids. They'll be like, you really shouting at a screen is not a helpful way to give product feedback, Dad. Meaning I get myself so like, we could do this better. Why don't we do this better? Stop shouting at, like that kind of thing. Anyway, thank you. No, that's I love the idea of falling in love with the problem. I think that's I love that concept. For our newer listeners, for folks who are either entering the space or want to enter the space, there's some books that people have recommended to me, like the Art of the Design or Cracking the PM Interview, things like that. I'd be curious if there are other resources that you recommend. Perhaps I don't know, I'm going to throw a little plug here, but I don't know, perhaps a TikTok feed of someone who is on the other end of this podcast, but like tips and things like that. I'd welcome I'd welcome any feedback.
I didn't think about that when we were chatting that this question might come up. And I genuinely brought my favorite product books here. So let me start with those, and then we can talk about the social feeds.
Perfect.
So, by far, the most influential book on my product thinking is this book here. This was written by a Harvard professor. The first section of the book is pretty dry. It's hard to read, but once you go through it, the rest of the book describes how the theory that is described in section 1 is applied in real life with companies that you've heard of, that you know, that are real life brands. And it's a fascinating business book from section 2 onwards. So fight yourself through section 1, internalize the concept, and then
Okay.
enjoy the rest. It is Competing Against Luck by
Ah,
Clayton
interesting.
Christensen.
Oh, competing against luck. Thank you. Yeah, Clayton Christensen. Okay, that's fabulous.
It's a book about the jobs theory, or if you heard about it, the jobs to be done. And one of the most famous stories from the book is when McDonald's was trying to sell more milkshakes, and they were doing user research trying to find how should they change the milkshake so that people would be happier with it, and they got data all over the place. And then this Harvard professor Clayton Christensen went with their team and helped them, and figured that users were buying the milkshake for two different reasons, aka two different jobs. So the job of the milkshake in the morning is to help commuters to be kind of entertained during their long commute drive, keep them filled. Yes, so like give them some food, have some interesting taste, and have something to maybe even to chew on during the way.
Like pleasurable.
With, yeah, without making a mess in the car, without making your hands sticky with the donuts,
Okay.
and still feeding you so that you can go until lunch. So
Okay.
here, the product that they want for this job is a larger size with more chunky pieces. Um, it should be a little bit more filling, and the competition for this product is the donut, the sandwich, the morning muffin, or bagels. One makes you sticky, the other one makes a mess in your car. It's hard to keep it in your hand. Whereas if you have a milkshake in a cup with some chunky pieces inside that you can chew on, that does the perfect job. That's the morning job. That's what people are hiring that product for. In the afternoon, it's a completely different reason why people are buying. The people who were buying the milkshake in the afternoon hired the product to be able to make them feel that they are a good parent. Because on the way back, when they were bringing their kids from school, the kid asked, "Can we stop at the toy store?" No. "Can we stop at little Johnny's house?" No. "Can we stop at the playground?" No. "Can I have a burger?" No. I'm saying no to every single thing. But I don't want to be the bad parent who always tells no to that poor kid. So when the kid asks, can I have a milkshake?" Yes, you can. But this milkshake needs to be smaller, it needs to be more milky, less sugary, more healthy, and small enough that the kid will still eat dinner when we get home. And here the packaging is smaller, the content is different, the marketing is different because your competition is not anymore the bagel and the morning sandwich and the donut. The competition is the playground and little Johnny's house. So different marketing, different packaging, different pricing, different ingredients, same product,
Interesting.
but different jobs to be done.
That is fascinating. And yeah, I have so many questions. Like,
What does the user want to achieve?
yeah,
What
what is the
does the user want
goal?
to achieve?
I never thought of a shake as a job. Like, but what job is it trying to perform, right? That is fascinating. I will say, I've only recently started engaging with UXR and UXD. For those folks who don't love acronyms, user experience research and user experience design. And this sounds like a fascinating journey into the research side. Can you talk about some of your experiences with UXR, UXD? I don't have a ton to talk about myself, so I'd love to hear your experience.
Yeah, so I've been working with these professionals, and I earlier in my career I also went to learn in some designer UXD and UXR course. It's a very useful knowledge for product managers, especially when you work for a smaller company. Typically, smaller companies, if they are lucky, they have one designer person who is in one person the researcher and the designer as well. Only the larger companies have the luxury to have these roles separated. And the smallest companies don't even have these. The product manager needs to do all of these roles as well. So I've been in all of these situations. So I had to do research myself. Design, I tried. I'm really not good at it. So I always had to rely on some designer work for my product. And then as I grew into roles in bigger companies, I started to work with these folks. But these are again separate professions, and there is really an art to research. How do you make your research to be unbiased? How you make your research representative? what is the right number of people to ask about a certain topic, so that you can rely on that signal. It is
Interesting.
fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm working. This designer I'm working with now is, um, well, let me back into it. So I've decided to play around with, the AI experience and vibe code some prototypes. And it was an interesting sort of situation I found myself in, right? Because it was easy. First of all, like I haven't put my hands on the keyboard to code in a really long time. So I too, it was in my background, where I used to do that, but it's been a long. I've been more of team, manager and product manager and program, all the different roles. So when I had the opportunity to create a working prototype that was like based on the document, based on the PRD, and it was like, I showed him the thing, and he's like, well, yeah, but what if we tried this, and what if we tried that, and how about if we went this way, and how about we went that way? And I was like, but it works, right? And like, but it does the job. And we had this interesting sort of back and forth around, well, how do you know, like, are you matching the outcome of this quick and dirty prototype to what the real user experience is, what they really want? And are you trying to optimize for one use case or all these? We went down that whole path. It was an amazing, like, it really helped me reframe like how I was thinking about getting from point A to point C, and not even thinking about B along the way, right? Like B could have taken me somewhere else. So it was interesting. Uh,
I can imagine, and this is because the product designers are really focused on how does the product interact with the user, or how does the user interact with the product. And when you are designing software products on the screen, one advice that really stuck with me from my early years, from a really great designer and design educator. They said that imagine that you have a pair of glasses on that makes your vision blurry, or if you don't have glasses, just if you pull your eyes and it makes your vision blurry, look at the screen, and if you look at your UI, if with the blurry vision, it's easy to spot where to click to go to the next step, you did a good job. If with the blurry eye, you couldn't see what you are supposed to do, then you didn't do a good job on that particular UI.
that's that's fascinating. Like just a slight disability of sorts, right? A slight blocking your vision.
That's why clear call to action buttons, very clear input areas where you need to do something are so exceptionally critical. Because, yeah, people will not come with a blurred vision,
Hmm.
but people come from all different backgrounds. People come with all different distractions in their mind. So when they arrive to your product, it needs to be super straightforward. Okay, what do I need to do to get the things done that I want to achieve?
Yeah. What's my next step? What's my next action? What do I do? Yeah. Wow. It's so simple. My challenge, at least my personal situation, is I'm colorblind. I mean, I see color, of course, right? But I can't tell you how many slide presentations I've seen where the red and the green are like kind of too close for me. And they're like, oh, this one here. I'm like, is that red? Is it pink? Is it like, where are we on that spectrum? And it's funny, like, as an accessibility, like I don't really think of it too much until I can't tell, and it's always been great. People generally like, oh, all right, sorry, I'll just change the colors. No big deal. Right. But for me, it's kind of a big deal. But then you have to consider you have to consider, especially when you got millions or billions of users. Interesting. Yeah. What is your take of AI in the role and vibe coding, that whole experience? I mean, it seems like it's so much easier to do things now than it's ever.
Yeah, so I have tried vibe coding myself. I think it's important for product managers to do so for multiple reasons. If you are early in your career and you are trying to break into product management, um, using vibe coding to build something can be a really good way to prove that you are a product manager. I give you a specific example. There was a lady called Alexandra. I think she's now a product manager at IBM or Microsoft. I think IBM. So she has a YouTube video. We'll share it in the show notes, the link to that YouTube video, if you're okay with it.
Yeah. Oh,
So
absolutely.
so
Yes.
she um, wanted to break into product, and she, for this reason, chose to build a product to prove that she can be a product manager because she had zero product management experience. She was annoyed because her flatmate was every day asking, which coat should I wear? And all that she did, she opened the window, looked outside, what is the weather like, opened the wardrobe, checked what coats the flatmate had, and gave, okay, wear this one. So what she did, she built an app, hooked up a weather API, allowed the user to add the catalog of the coats, and every morning when you open the what coat should I wear app, it would, based on the weather information through the weather API and the characteristics of the clothing, pick which coat should I wear. Simple, beautiful. So as a product manager, as a wannabe product manager, and you
Yes.
want to break into product, you don't need to build the next Google. You don't need to build the next Facebook. Solve a problem that a couple of dozen users or a couple of hundred users would find valuable, and that proves more than anything that you are, in fact, a product manager. And
Interesting.
AI just made your life 100 times easier because a couple of years ago you needed at least an engineer to help you build this. Today you can build this for yourself. There are multiple tools that can help you do it. The easier way is, or more beginner friendly way, not necessarily easier, but more beginner friendly way is, let's say, Lovable, where you go from prompt to working prototype in one step.
Mm.
The next one is when you go from prompt to code to working product. That's when, let's say, you are using Claude that you are prompting to generate code, and then you use that code to actually build the product. That's a bit more advanced, so higher barrier to entry,
Mm.
but higher quality
Like
output and
outcome.
more
Yeah.
production ready
Yeah.
end product.
Interesting. Yeah. I was playing around. I'm looking at purchasing something sizable, considering a mortgage or not, basically. Okay. And played around, just played with it. And it's like, can I solve this problem? Right. So I tried, let's just say I tried a non Google AI. No, heavens to Murgatroyd, right? Like, oh my gosh. And honestly, it was interesting that it really worked. I kept running into like, use up too many of your token kind of problem type thing, even though I was a paid customer, right? But it was that part was annoying. But then like they would run into problems that it just would fail. And I said, all right, how do I? Because again, it's been too long since I looked at code. How do I put this into like how do I deploy this right out to a website? I have a domain. I'd like to just play with it under a domain, right? Give me all the instructions. And I was like, okay. So then this is not a plug for my company, our company, but I tried it in AI Studio and Gemini, and I think this one knocked my socks off because there's a little button in the upper corner that says deploy to cloud. And I'm like, all right, this is going to cost me money, but let me just see how much money. What's it going to cost? Gabor, when I tell you, I hit the button, it deployed to cloud. It cost me like not like practically nothing, pennies to deploy it because I'm not using an engine. It's just a logic. You're just using the code. It's just playing, right? And it was in production, with a click of a button. It was incredibly simple thing to do. So that's why when I think about like the provider that has the intelligence and the deployment is going to be a severe, a very strong competitor, then here's something. Go ahead and figure out how to get it to prod, right? Like, anyway, it was interesting. But I like it's true. I do like your, I like your, you're bringing it back to the product manager, right? This person who's trying to break in. If you've got a problem, try to solve it. Even if it's like, even if it's for a small population, I just love that. Such a simple app, right? I mean, I could have done a search for a mortgage calculator and I probably would have found it, right? But it was more fun. And now it's got that. Now I would say, from my perspective, it's got too many features. I'm like, oh, I want to see what the return is on this. And I want to like, and now it's like, it looks like something a finance wonk would like love. That's not going to use this. They'll use Excel. So I've over engineered. Basically, what I'm saying is I over engineered the thing. So, but no, but it's fun. It's really fun. I've been enjoying it. I've been enjoying the experience. So, any other thoughts on AI? Like, I do you use it for any kind of language work or any kind of like, documentation type things, or what people use it all over the place for different purposes. I'm curious what you as a
So this is the vibe coding part, and then there is the AI part. Um, so at work, we definitely do use AI in multiple ways. So one way of using AI is just making you more productive. One of my favorite applications of AI is what I wish I would have had a couple of years ago when I started at Google, when everything was new, and it is NotebookLM, because NotebookLM is this fascinating product where you can put different resources, documents, videos, notes, emails, whatever you want. You can pop it into this magical folder of NotebookLM, and it you can then ask questions through a chat interface from the entirety of the information within that magic folder, right? And also it can create podcast style a summary for you. So if you want to understand a really complex problem space, pop all the documents in, tell NotebookLM to generate a podcast from it, and then on your commute home, just listen to it, and you comprehended that whole problem space. This would have helped me a lot when I worked in my previous role when I started at Google. So that's one way of using AI. Another way of using AI, obviously, to make document production quicker. It's important to note that AI is not yet at the place where I would trust it to completely write a Google level PRD for me
Mm.
from scratch, because oftentimes um, it says things or crafts beautiful sentences that as a sentence makes sense, but it might not be as grounded into nuanced facts and data that it is expected to be grounded when many other stakeholders start to scrutinize the documents. So the better way of doing it is maybe like a multi-step process. One, it can help you get started, because if you give a good prompt and the detailed prompt, what are you trying to write about? What are the important questions you try to answer? It can spit out some good structure, and then you populate it. And then once you populated it with real and important and tangible details that are correct, and you curated those data points, then you can ask AI as again to help you as a last step to make your content more readable,
Mm.
easier to consume, and then it will spot you wherever you use too long sentences or wherever you didn't write with enough clarity. So AI is really helpful. It is not yet on the level that it would replace you, but it can multiply the impact that you can have by accelerating the speed of how you do things.
I think that's exactly right. Um, yeah, thank you. That's really good. That's really good feedback. I too have played with the Notebook LM, and especially when you're learning a new domain, it's amazing. The other capability within the LM, the Notebook, is the mind map. like how it breaks things down into little sections, and you could click on each and drill into the detail, and then it gives you the reference. I find that that's incredibly helpful. Um, yeah, I think I'm trying to remember where I heard the quote, and maybe it's become common knowledge now, but people worry about losing their jobs to AI. And I think that's less likely, at least now where we are, than losing your job to the guy you're competing with who knows how to use AI.
Ooh, I would challenge you on that one. I think
Okay.
people are losing their jobs on AI, even today. AI is
Let's,
taking away jobs of people. I tell you how. And this is not my fault. This is actually from TikTok. There is a previous Amazon worker who is now creating content around technology. And he said this, which is fascinating. AI is taking jobs by basically um, generating too much demand. For example, for Amazon, Amazon is having way too much demand for their AI, or Google is having way too much demand for their AI, and these companies need more and more and more computers in data centers to serve this AI demand.
okay.
For this, they need to purchase a lot of chips from NVIDIA, or yeah, some big companies may produce their own chips and use it. Some big companies may only buy it from NVIDIA, but either way, they need to spend a lot of money on building data centers and adding computers to that. And that's a capital expenditure growth. It costs a lot of money.
And
And
the
at the
numbers
same
are
time,
massive. Yeah.
yeah, at the same time, companies are expected by Wall Street to keep their cost low. So for this reason, companies might think, okay, I need to spend more on the hardware, but I cannot spend that much more overall. So where do I cut some expense? Well, unfortunately, employees are monthly recurring expenses.
And usually close to real estate in terms of the total cost, right? Like they're from the balance sheet, they're very expensive.
And for this reason, when you see a big layoff, AI is not taking away those jobs in a sense that, oh, now AI does what Tom does, or AI does what Gabor used to
I see the argument. Okay.
do. But AI is taking away jobs by companies having to spend more on AI investments, and for this reason, cutting off less efficient parts of the company where humans are producing something that just doesn't generate as much revenue as if that money would be spent on AI hardware.
Yeah, and I think that that's an interesting argument. I do think there's merit. Absolutely think there's merit to the argument. You could apply it to tech companies for sure, but I don't know that in the rest of the economy it's having that same effect.
Probably not.
Ford Motor is not going out and buying a data center, right? They're not investing.
Probably not.
And I guess yes, but given that the top, what is it, the magnificent 10, I don't always know the acronym, the 10 biggest tech companies constitute 40% of the market right now in terms of like valuation. It's definitely a huge factor. But when you consider the number of actual jobs in the wider, at least in the global economy, not just the US economy, um, I'm hard pressed to see data. At least it's early days, right? But I'm hard pressed to see the data that the typical non-tech worker, right? You might be a tech job, but not big tech company, is experiencing that. But like, I guess it just depends on who your audience is, right? Are you talking to A or B? But I like that. I need to think more about that. It's an interesting argument. I'd love to poke on that. I love these things. Like to me, economics I've always found to be just absolutely fascinating because it's like statistics. Statistics don't lie. Statisticians do, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, but also if we go to the smaller companies, I do see how for smaller companies Some roles might be eliminated
Possibly.
because of AI. So let's say copywriting or proofreading or note taking. Like
Yeah.
there are so many AI solutions that do not require the same number of people anymore that it used to require. So there, yeah, AI can take away jobs.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, or I've got one person now doing the job of three, which is, which is, which is not too unusual when we introduce technology, right? That's not uncommon, but yeah, interesting. Maybe if we could pivot a little bit towards talking about your experience, like interviewing and some of your personal experiences in that space, and I don't know how many other PMs, or what kind of advice would you give to someone, trying to break into PMing, product management, from an interviewing perspective?
Yeah. So I think we covered the how to break into product management.
Yes.
Um, and for those folks who want to break into product, that's my best advice. Build
Yeah.
something, right?
Try it.
For folks who are, let's say, already mid-career, already product managers, and they are trying to upgrade their career to the next level, or
Hmm.
change jobs, or just simply out of job and want to pull off the next one, for them, the number one advice that I have is to embrace the fact that interviewing is now a separate skill. You can be a really good product manager while not being a good product management interviewee, and someone who is not even that good of a product manager but a really good product management interviewee might take the job that you are competing for because they performed better in the interview. Interviewing became a separate skill, whether we like it or not, for the better or worse, but it became a separate skill.
I agree. Yeah, and the more you practice, like any other skill, right, with friends, family, peers, I think that's a good way to you know bone up, as it were, to, like, on that skill. Yeah, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, especially if you're willing to reflect. What was your most memorable, best, worst, or funniest PM interview that you've experienced?
There is one super memorable.
Those are usually the good ones. Maybe it's not good, but it's
It was not good at the time, it is good now. This was the round when I finally got hired by Google. I tried multiple times and I failed multiple times. And I sort of had the feeling that, these big companies only give professionals a certain number of chances. Not because there is a hard rule, but if you just think about it realistically, if Gabor tried interviewing with us, I don't know, 15 times, why would we give a 16th chance when they didn't manage to improve themselves enough in the last 15 times, right? So there is always a certain number after which recruiters will just say, I rather spend my time on working with someone who I haven't seen before. They have a better chance than this person who didn't really improve between the last couple of rounds. So I felt that, okay, this might be my last chance. And I went through the series of interviews, um, the loop interview, if folks are familiar with it. So in the series of interviews, or the loop interview, you've got like 4 or 5 interviews back to back, and one of them, I had a certain plan what to talk about for a product design interview question, but the interviewer had something different in mind, and they kept me basically near the very beginning of the list that I wanted to cover. They kept me exploring more and more and more and more segments, user segments that I could develop this product for. And they just kept asking, okay, for who else? For who else? What other segment? What other segment? And I really panicked because I saw that the time was passing so fast, and I knew at this point that I would not have time to go through the rest of the case that I wanted to cover.
sure.
And already I was negative spiraling knowing that, okay, if I fail this one interview, it will be a negative signal. If this is a negative signal, it is probably negative enough that even if the other interviews went okay or well, this one can drag me down and basically fail my whole loop interview for me, and then probably this is my last chance, and I will never make it to Google.
No pressure. No pressure applied to yourself, and that one was there.
And I was almost in tears, like I was choking when we were saying bye to the with the interviewer, and the interviewer in like the last second before dropping off from the call said that, "Don't worry, Gabor, we had a good conversation." And I was like, okay, so
Interesting.
maybe not everything is lost.
Okay. He could tell from they could tell from your demeanor, your face, your stress.
I was on the edge of crying. Like, it was very clearly visible
Wow.
that I was shaken.
Yeah.
I didn't lose it. I didn't break down in front of them, but I was very clearly shaken and already negative spiraling in my mind. And they just gave this one sentence, and they indicated that, okay, things were not horrible. And then at the end, I did get an offer and did get hired. So when then I saw this person in the office, I told them that, God, that one sentence that made all the difference.
Saved me. Yeah. No, again, this is why it's so important for any job, your interviewer needs to operate with compassion and understanding and
Empathy.
I promise I was gonna get there. Yes, that was the word I was looking for. 100%, 100%. Right? Because no one's coming in here just for fun. This matters to us. And especially after multiple tries. Well, that's amazing. I will say kudos to you and other folks that I've spoken with, not just here, but other companies as well that have tried again and again and again, right? They believe in the company, they believe in the mission, they want the thing that they keep at it. So kudos to you for, for that wherewithal, for that dedication. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, no, that's a good one. Like one of the ones I always like are there any particularly weird or off the wall kind of questions you've ever been asked? Like what's one of the weirder ones?
Oh, weird questions. Oh, the worst question that I've ever had,
Okay.
and I miserably failed my first attempt of getting hired by Google on this particular question.
Okay.
This was back in those days in 2016 when Google still asked brain teaser questions. Brain teaser questions are questions where you just need to demonstrate that you are comfortable with mathematics and logic, but there is basically a formula that you can kind of practice, and once you practice it, it's more about how much you practice and not that much about how you think. Therefore, Google no longer goes for these brain teasers. So such questions are how many windows there are in New York City, or how many curbstones there are in Seattle, or this kind of thing, like estimation questions. My question was, this was in 2016, and the question was, if you assume that every car manufactured after 2005, every diesel car manufactured after 2005 is manufactured with a particular filter included, but every car that was manufactured before 2005 did not have particular filter, and to meet all the new guidelines around emissions, all of those cars manufactured before 2005 would need to be installed a particular filter. How many cars would you need to install it to?
You're asking me, I would say a lot.
You need to get to an actual number.
No, I was kidding. I was kidding. Yeah. Like, yeah,
So
yeah,
that it didn't go well. It didn't go
it
well.
didn't go well.
Like,
Yeah.
you go down along the ways of, okay, how many cars are manufactured per year? what do we even mean by car? Like, do we only include passenger cars or
Yeah.
buses as well, trucks? Like, what do we include? What does it mean car? And then
Interesting.
how many of those are manufactured every year? How many of those were manufactured in the last however many years, a lifetime do we consider for a car?
Yeah, from that cutoff, when do we shut the car? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was the intention of this kind of question to take you, like, to walk through your logical thinking, or is it really to come up with a number?
How you work with numbers. Yes.
Okay,
But
interesting.
nowadays, Google rather asks, you still need to be comfortable with your number and your logic, but it doesn't ask completely
Off the wall.
off the wall questions.
Is that the way I should use
Rather,
it?
they try to ask questions that are more real life like, that are related to real life scenarios, such as, I don't know, if you are a product manager on Airbnb and you want to roll out to country X, how many support agents would you need to cover the support needs of that country? And that's
Got
more like a
real
real
problem.
scenario that is grounded into real life, into business, and measures your business acumen way more than these arbitrary.
Random. Yeah. Yeah. How many ping pong balls could we fit in the conference room kind of question? That's what I'd heard before. It was a good one.
Was how many ping pong balls in a 747 plane?
Oh, is
That
that
was
okay?
the
There you
question.
go. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Meeting room is easy. It's way too easy.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's a
A
cubicle.
volume
Yeah,
problem. Yeah. If you could do the calculation
yeah.
for
But when
volume.
you have an airplane,
Yeah. 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 No, that's fair. What's the curve? The formula for the measuring the curve and the calculus needed for that is more complex.
without seats.
But yeah, there you go. That's a good question. We used to have some fun questions. When I was at this bank, we did a lot of hiring. And we were, one of the questions was just you'd ask the off the wall ones. These were like, actually one of my personal favorites, which is just an absolutely silly question, but it really got you to got the candidate to kind of get out of their comfort zone a little. I'll ask you this question. Ready? If I gave you an elephant, where would you hide it?
Ooh. Dead or alive? How did you give it to me?
Alive,
Alive. In the
dead or
jungle.
alive.
In the jungle.
In the jungle, fine. Yeah, that works. The ones there were some fun ones that took the problem. See what I like about the question, you can really go anywhere with it, right? In the jungle's good, behind the house, in an empty swimming pool, like things like that are all good. But my favorite, this one gentleman, like this was almost enough just to hire him on the spot. I don't remember if we did or not, but the best answer ever was, he goes, hide it. Why would I hide it? I have an elephant. I would ride it around and show all my friends. I have an elephant. It's like, you know what? I love it. That was one of the best. That was hands down one of the best answers. So no, that's terrific. I want to thank you so much for your time today. I do want to ask you though one last question about advice to your younger self. Like what would you advise? Now you've been working for X number of years. You've learned a ton. What would you tell young Gabor?
So that's an interesting one because I would give young Gabor a different advice than what I would give someone who is young and early career right now. So young Gabor, I would give the advice to stick to bigger brands and larger companies all the way until you get rich enough that money is no longer an important part of of your employment, and at that point go for smaller companies that are more like passion projects. That would be
Interesting.
for my 10, 15, 20 years ago
Okay.
self. But if I would be, let's say, early 20s today, I would say that try to focus on work to live and not live to work, and always have a job because you need to make a living, but always try to do something that you love, inside or outside work, and think about opportunities, how you can turn stuff that you love to spend time on into generating some additional income for you. Because what this does, like, obviously it brings a little bit more money as a side gig, but but what that small additional money does, it gives you a lot of confidence inside and outside work. Inside of work, you will be less scared that, okay, if I lose this job, I still have my side gig. I might not live the same lifestyle, but
Sure.
I'm not gonna lose my house. I'm not gonna lose my rent. I'm not gonna be unable to put food on the table because I
Absolutely.
have something to rely on, and that gives you a much more confident state when you are at work and interacting with others. And also because it is related to what you like to do, it is very fulfilling, because sometimes jobs are not necessarily fulfilling. We do it because we have to do it, but it's great when it's fulfilling, but it's not always the case. And therefore, if you do your 9 to 5, and it's not necessarily the best, but you have your fun project, which brings you a little bit of extra money, that can be your fulfillment. And these two can balance each other really well.
Love that. Yeah, no, I love that. And I know one of your fun efforts is your social media, the work you're doing on TikTok. And would you like to talk about that? I know that's one of your passions.
I'm happy to. So
Yeah,
on socials, you can find me everywhere as Gabor.productmanager. Yeah, I just share stuff about product management and how to upgrade your career as a product manager. And I like helping folks upgrading their career.
awesome, awesome. I love that. Yeah, we'll make sure we put your socials in the notes. And I want to say thank you again so much. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I appreciate your counsel and your advice and your time. Thank you, and
Likewise, it was
look
a
forward
fun
to
conversation.
hopefully seeing you in the office one of these days soon.
Yeah, of course.
All right, thanks again, Gabor.